mistakes sales reps make is, so there's what I call the success formula. And what the success formula is there's three inputs.
Okay, what's up, everybody? I am stoked for today's podcast. We got a guy that has been in door-to-door forever. He's now coaching people. He's one of the top, I would say, door-to-door coaches out there, training up a lot of people, a lot of teams. So I'm excited to have Mr. Doug Cartwright on the podcast today. Thanks for hopping on with us, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for making this happen, Taylor.
Yeah, of course. We're just talking before we hit record. I saw you at your event, the Alchemy sales coaching event, I think around a month or so ago. And yeah, man, it's just wanted to congratulate on that. It was definitely one of the best sales events I've attended. I took a ton of notes there, and just the lineup you had felt like I was with the Avengers of sales and of coaching. You got some super solid dudes.
Yeah.
So thanks for putting it on.
Yeah, my goal with that event was I wanted every speaker to be keynote headliner quality. Yeah. And so we just went for multiple hours, just ripping nonstop, great content. So it was an exciting experience. I'm glad you made it out.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you're not joking about that, because there was a few times where my brain felt like it was going to explode, just so much good information. I'm like, man, I got to take a break, but I don't want to miss this speaker. I don't what if, and we didn't have an agenda either. So everyone knew that you kept us on our toes because we didn't know exactly who was coming up next to speak. So I thought that was good too.
Yeah, we just kept it going, man. All gas, no brakes.
Yeah. Yep. Casey Baugh at the end, topping things off. So yeah, super good. But yeah, man, so let's get into, just a little bit of your backgrounds. I want to hear why you decided to start your company. And I know before you were, I remember it was the daily shifts, right? Are you still doing that too? Or is it now all Alchemy sales coaching?
Yeah, daily shifts transitioned into Alchemy. One thing I just realized as I was building a personal development platform, which the daily shifts was kind of designed for non-door-to-door. It was kind of designed just for overall personal health and wellness and development. And I realized that, 90% of the people who were using my platform were door-to-door guys, and they were asking for more intentional training. And so just kind of the way life works, I kind of pivoted and transitioned that company into Alchemy sales coaching is today.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that's the first day. I think the first time I met you was at a Knockstar event in Park City. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah,
Danny Pesci, Taylor McCarthy.
Yeah, that was back in 2021.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so just really cool story and really interesting stuff too. Usually at sales events, I'm used to more the technical stuff, the more strategic things we can do on the doors, but you come in and you talk more about the mindset thing. I think that's the first time I'd really heard the importance of the mindset, the other things that and I know something big you talk about is just the strategic stuff. What you say is a very small part of what we do. Most of it is the state you're in. So yeah, I definitely want to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, yeah, man, I know you were big in alarms before you transitioned into your coaching and your business. So for the listeners that don't know your story as much, do you want to give us just Reader's Digest, your journey into alarms and how you got started into door-to-door and all that, and later transitioned into coaching?
Yeah, so I got recruited in 2010 at the University of Utah. I was just a cold campus recruit. Just got shoulder tapped. And I'd always kind of heard about door-to-door, kind of through the grapevine. I didn't know much about it. I heard you can make a bunch of money. And this guy just shoulder tapped me and, asked me, if I was be open to kind of putting myself in a situation where I could make a little bit more money. And so, I wanted to give it a shot, gave it a go, and went out and knocked my first weekend on a blitz and sold two alarm accounts my first weekend, and made $800 up front for those two deals. And it kind of really changed my paradigm because it was like, oh, I was working hourly before, and I was kind of a typical college kid. I was, 19 years old, 20 years old. Um, you had like, I was making like $15 an hour at my job, and then went out on a weekend and made $800, and I was like, wow, it would normally take me 3 weeks to make that much money at my other job, and I made it in 2 days.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the mind paradigm shift. And most people in the door-to-door space have that moment at one point where it's like you're kind of have your mindset on like the hourly mindset, and then you get introduced to commission sales, and it just shatters your constructs of reality, really. And so I always tell people I was kind of like this golden recruit, and realized, I got recruited in December, so it was winter in Utah. And then, for whatever reason, my mind was like, hey, if I just would knock doors the same hours that I was working my hourly job in Utah, I'll make way more money if I just put in the same time. And so I was first year recruit, had been in the company for like a week, and, just started knocking by myself in Utah in January. It was
Well,
freezing cold in the snow, and started getting deals. And, I had like 13, 14 alarm deals by March. And that really kind of started my trajectory into Vivant. And went out that first year and had a successful year. I sold about 55 alarms by the 4th of July. And that summer happened to be also the summer my father passed away from cancer. And
hmm,
so I came home early that summer, spent time with my dad, and I was really grateful for my time at Vivint, because that last month before my dad died, I was actually able to spend a whole month with him. I didn't have to worry about money or working, and I was able to actually like really be with him his last days. So it was really special, and I was really grateful for the job. And then it
yeah.
was after that summer, I remember having a conversation with Casey Baugh on a cruise, and he just basically was like, hey, you've shown signs of greatness. I think you should commit to this thing for 5 years. And he
Well,
painted the vision for me, and so I'm like, all right, I'm going all in. So
well,
that summer, or that fall 2011 is when I like really committed to going all in, burned my ships, no plan B, went and recruited all my friends. And then that next summer was managing, an office, a Vivint office, basically by myself at 21, with only like half a
well,
summer under my belt. Didn't really know what I was doing, but figured it out, and went out and became a top performer that year. And that was kind of where everything kind of took off from there. I did 212, kind of my first full year of alarms.
well,
My office did about 1,200, and then things just kind of compounded from there.
yeah. Yeah, that's incredible, man. But it's funny. It sounds Casey Bott seems like he's really good at getting people to like buy into that vision, because it sounds kind of similar to we heard Zach Anderson speak at your event too, and same thing. Sounds like you just basically a kid off the street, and Casey Bott just like painted this insane vision for him, and got him to buy in. So like that's what great recruiters do, man. But yeah, how have you seen that? Do you think? I guess speaking of recruiting for a minute, is that something you were able to do for a lot of your reps, or how do you, as a leader, like paint this vision for your reps and get them bought in like that? Do you think Casey was doing that for a lot of people, and just like playing Jedi tricks, getting them buy in, or how have you seen that as you've
Yeah,
done it for like other people?
I wouldn't use the word Jedi tricks, right? And so all recruiting is, it's pretty simple. Is there's kind of just it's just like sales, right? People
Mm-hmm.
on the doors, people are extremely loyal to those who help solve their problems. So when you're out knocking, whether you're selling pest, alarm, solar, your job really is just to solve someone's problem, right? That's kind of
Yeah,
like your own job, right? And so in recruiting, it's exactly the same thing. Is people, or every single person you engage with in a recruiting situation has a pain point.
yeah,
Um, and your job as a recruiter is to kind of uncover where they are at point A, and kind of really make them feel their pain point, and then discover what their point B is, right? Where they want to go. And then your job
yeah,
is just to show them the path, right? So if you can create a really clear path to solve someone's pain points, that's all recruiting is
yeah,
just really helping people to show them a brighter future, and to bridge the gap from point A to point B. And if you can do that effectively and efficiently, that's really going to be the biggest impact in recruiting. And a big mistake I see people make in recruiting is they try and convince a rep of why they should do the job and how they're going to be great, and without really uncovering, doing a process of just uncovering someone's personal pain points, and they don't make it
Mm-hmm.
personal. They're just like, oh, you'd kill it, you'll crush it, you'll make this much money, let's go. And they don't really spend time getting to know the recruit. And the best recruiters I know make it really personal and really get to know the recruit and figure out what drives them and what motivates them, and then shows them a path of how to get to that next point. And it really is just kind of building these personal relationships and solving people's problems. That's all recruiting is. And people make it so hard and difficult, and they they make it more complicated than it needs to be. When really it's just, if you can provide a solution to people's pain points, right, you'll never run out of recruits.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, it just reminded me of the company I'm with right now. It's actually kind of why legacy. It's kind of why I don't know if you know Mike Brand, but he took like a pretty similar approach with me. I just felt like he got to know me way more personally, spoke to all my pain points, and just painted like a really clear vision. And to the point where even when I was unsure of things, he showed up to my house on like a random Sunday morning, right as I was getting ready to go to church. He just shows up out of the blue and just like, you know, digs the trench even deeper, just like starts recruiting again and gets me bought in. So yeah, just reminding me of kind of my journey too. And I think that's what great recruiters do is, like you said, get to know people personally and then do a really good job of painting the picture of what they can become, what they can do. And obviously you're a perfect example of that. I know you grew multiple teams over at Vivant and trained a ton of people over there. So how long were you with Vivant there? How long were you building with them?
Yeah, so I managed at Vivint from 2012 to about 2017. And then in 2017, I transitioned into a company sales training role. So, kind of after building teams and regions and kind of being a top rep, a top performer, I got the opportunity to actually be in more of a trainer's role. And that was really exciting for me. I loved being able to travel around the country. And it was really exciting because I got to work in one market for a week, and then I'm on an airplane, and then I'm traveling to Charlotte, and then I'm off to Florida, and then I'm to Arkansas, and then I'm to New Mexico. And really getting to meet a lot of other reps, getting on the trenches with them, getting on the doors with them, running their correlations, and kind of getting a feel of each kind of market. And one thing I love about it too is I got to see a lot of the country. Like, I got to go to a lot of places in the states where I normally wouldn't go to, like Birmingham, Alabama, and spend some time there and kind of do a little sightseeing in the mornings, and then go out on the doors. And so it was really exciting, and I loved it. And I got to work with, I bet I've been on the doors and knocked with, 150, 200 reps in my career. And so it was an exciting time, and loved my time there. And, the last time I knocked doors for Vivint was in 2020. That was kind of the last hoorah for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Was that something you decided? Did you like approach them and were like, "Hey, can I just do more training now?" Or did they approach you? How did that start? The whole
It was
like corporate
it
training.
was yeah, it was a mutual experience. Vivint saw the quality of my accounts. I was known for selling really clean accounts. I had really low attrition.
Yeah,
I sold really high quality, good accounts, and obviously attrition can be a killer for a company. And
yeah,
so Vivint really wanted cleaner accounts. And so they asked me if I would do some sales training videos, and that's how it started. And so I did a couple of sales training videos. Those were wildly successful. At one point, I had the most watched sales training video ever at Vivint. Um,
well,
and and then it got to a point where a couple of people were asking me, some regionals were asking me, like, hey, can you come out and do a training for our team? And then I went to Vivint. I'm like, hey, these guys are hitting me up to go train. Can we actually work out a role where I'll do this for the whole company? And they agreed to that. And so that was a fun couple
cool.
of summers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, speaking of, then I want to get to the training other reps part here in a minute, but we're in solar obviously, and that's something that we go through a lot. There's massive attrition in solar. I think I would say industry average is probably less than 50% that go to roof for these solar accounts we sell. And so I think it's a big thing that, we're trying to get better in solar. And one of the challenges we experience, as you would imagine, is we sell this thing and then it's not going in for another 1, 2, 3 months a lot of times. So we got to keep the customer happy. We got to make sure the process is going smoothly with the installer. So yeah, it can be a challenge. So I know it's, different industries from alarms, and I know you haven't like necessarily sold solar, and I've coached a lot of solar reps. But is there anything back from your for days with good attrition? Anything you see that's like a crossover that you think just general principles that reps are like skipping steps, or maybe things that they do that lead to bad attrition? Any advice you'd have on that for
Yeah. Yeah. To clean up your attrition, it's really simple. You just have to be you have to overshare on the reality of the situation. You have to be very direct. You have to be very clear, and you have to set really clear expectations,
Okay.
right? When a customer doesn't have clear expectations and it feels like things are taking longer or things aren't working properly, it's going to create disturbance. It's going to create friction, frustration. And what's really happening is that it's breaking the connection of trust,
Mm,
right? When you break the connection of trust, right, you're going to lose the deal. And
yeah.
so one thing that I did is I would overly explain the reality of the situation and almost make it really set their expectations up that, hey, this is going to take a long time, right? You're going to have second thoughts about this. You're going to have doubts. You're going to feel like maybe this isn't a good idea, right? That's totally normal. That's expected. When those hesitations or those doubts come in, call me and I can help navigate it. Maybe it won't be a good decision for you. I'm totally okay with that. And so I would gave my customers permission to cancel, right? It wasn't
Okay.
like, oh, I'm going to like lock this in on you and you can never escape. I'm like, hey, a lot of times when I was closing an alarm, I'm like, hey, you have a 3-day right of rescission on this thing where you can cancel this thing legally within 3 days. You might have thoughts you feel like you want to cancel. If that happens, just text me. We can talk about it. Maybe it's not a good fit for you. And
Mm,
for whatever reason, what I do to just like relieve like this pressure. And sometimes people would hit me up and be like, hey, I'm thinking about canceling. I'm like, cool, let's talk about it. Why? You know? And then you kind of walk through them. And because the trust is so high, it's easier to navigate obstacles. So in a solar piece, it's like, it's the same in recruiting. In recruiting, right? Because there's a lot of attrition of turnover in reps, is I set expectations really, really high. Meaning, when I sit down with a rep, I would say, hey, there's a really high probability you're going to want to quit. you know Statistically speaking, you're not going to cut it. Like, this is really hard. It's going to stretch you. It's going to push you in ways you've never believed were possible. You're going to question your existence as a human being. You're going to want to cry on the doors. 50% of your jobs are going to cancel, right? It's going to be, you have to be so self-motivated, and this will be the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life. And I've really set it really high. And then if you're willing to go through it, here are the rewards. Here's
mm,
what you get if you're willing to go through the hard thing. And so when it gets hard, when the sun's 100 degrees, they want to quit. They hit me up. I'm like, hey man, I know this isn't for me. I'm like, yeah, we talked about this. Like, this isn't new information. Like,
yeah.
we kind of knew this was going to come, right? In a customer situation, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about canceling. It's like, yeah, I told you this was going to happen, right? You feel like you're going to want to cancel. Let's talk about it. And so I just had a very clean, transparent conversation. There was no gray areas in my sales, right? I never
Mm,
felt like I was deceiving the customer in any way. And so I could speak really directly and clearly to them. And sometimes you get cancels, it's part of the job, right? It's part of the experience. But I
yeah.
think by being more transparent, by being perfectly honest and setting really clear expectations, there's the initial fear that's like, oh my gosh, they won't do it. But it's actually, if you're the more transparent, the more clear you are, the less attrition you'll actually have, because you're building a connection of trust.
Mm, that's so good. Yeah, I've never tried that for solar in that way, but yeah, I like that a lot. Because yeah, I mean, my approach is just like try to make sure there's no hidden objections, but I've never approached it like that transparent at the end. Like, hey, you might have feelings that this is a bad idea. It happens to everybody. And I think what I feel like that opens the door for them to just want to come to actually talk to you if they're feeling like canceling. Because most of my cancels, as a matter of fact, I had one a couple of weeks ago where I felt like we had super good rapport, good relationship, but then she decided she wanted to cancel, and this lady would not like tell me she would not like um just come clean with why she wanted to cancel, because I think she just felt like, oh, he's gonna over try to overcome my objections, gonna make him feel bad. And I even went to her house and everything. Said, hey, I gotta come over to help you cancel this out. And still, she's like, oh, I'm not gonna. She just like wouldn't tell me why. Shoes canceling. Um, so yeah, I like that a lot, and I feel like it opens the door for people that's to actually come clean to you and hopefully, give you the
Yeah.
chance to uncover some
Yeah.
of
If you
these
think about
things.
it, the number one objection you're going to run into in this industry, and it's not even close, is trust. Right? If people don't trust you, they're not going to do business with you, period. Right? The number one objection you have to overcome on the doors in your door approach is trust. And so my whole persona is like, I want to create the most amount of trust as possible. And so I would literally be like, hey, you can cancel on this thing, right? You
Yeah,
might have thoughts that you're gonna cancel, especially solar. It's a much more logical deal than alarms, right? And so
yeah,
it's sort of like, hey, this might take 3 months to get on your roof. It just kind of depends on the city licensing and the permitting, right? It's kind of out of our control. There's going to be times you might get frustrated and you feel like you're going to want to cancel. You can totally cancel if you want. You absolutely can. And right, if you do, if those thoughts are normal, just call me. We'll talk about it, right? Usually there's kind of some piece of missing information that can help kind of solve your concern. I'll do my best to solve it. And if we can't, then no worries. You don't have to get this thing. But in my experience, once you kind of understand the true depth of what this is all about, it's going to put money back in your pocket and it's going to make a lot of sense. And if this
yeah,
doesn't ever make sense for you, like, let's pull it. No big deal. Don't stress about it. But I just ask you that if you do have concerns, questions about it, right, hesitations, just call me, right, and I'll talk it through you. And if it's not a good fit, then we'll pull it. No big deal.
mm, yeah. It's so good. Love that. Yeah, definitely gonna have to try that. Yeah, I can see how that would help a lot, and yeah, I think it just relieves pressure too, because that's something I've noticed too. When I'm like setting appointments for solar, if people think that they need to make like a decision in the appointment, then they're way more likely to just cancel that appointment because they're like, oh, there's going to be pressure. He's going to want me to do it. So something that I found, just kind of that same principle, just getting people to sit more for solar, is just like giving them permission to not do it. Just be like, hey, when I come back, we're going to go through all the info. If you don't like it or it doesn't make sense, then just don't do it. Right? We don't want you to do something that doesn't seem like a good idea. And just like that line alone, giving them permission, saying, hey, I'm not looking for a for sure decision. Don't do it if it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's helped me just like increase people that sit down, just because they're like, okay, he said I don't have to do it. It's not going to be some high pressure thing. So yeah, I think kind of in that same way. I like that a lot with the cancel lines you got
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Your goal is just to alleviate pressure, right? If there's pressure on the situation, there's buying pressure. You know, my whole my whole concept in Alchemy sales coaching is that sales is a transfer of energy. That's all it
Yeah,
is. It's a transfer of energy. So if you're bringing a tense, overwhelming pressure energy to a deal, right, people are going to say no. They're going to cancel, right? And so my whole job is to make the comfortable customer feel as comfortable as possible. And the reality is with solar, it just makes sense. It's much more logical deal. So if I can bring an emotion where they feel comfortable, trust is high, and then I can provide them the logic of why this solar solves their problems, I'll be closing a lot of deals.
yeah, love that. So that's awesome. So Doug, I want to transition a little bit here to the training piece, and I know at this point you've trained hundreds, probably if not thousands of reps. I'm sure you've seen lots of mistakes as you went from team to team. Was that type of thing where you were going to teams and guys were like, "Man, I don't know what's going on with this rep. Can you help them?" Was that a lot of that where people were like giving their problem reps to you, trying to have you figure out the solution, or is it more just like, general doing a correlation, going on doors with them? How much of it was like working with problem reps like that?
Well, I think that they're the same, right? Every office has. I've never met in my 15-year career someone who was 100% satisfied with their production.
Yeah,
Like, everyone's always like, "Oh, I need to be doing more. I wish I was doing more. I can do more. I can do." It's just the reality of the situation. No one's ever 100% satisfied.
yeah,
And so, a couple of mistakes I see reps make is they're just not patient enough, right? Like, this job it's learning a whole new skill set,
mm-hmm.
and it's the equivalent of someone who's never played the piano before, and then deciding they want to play the piano, and then they want to be playing Beethoven in 2 weeks. It's just
Yeah,
not happening, right? You have to respect the process of the job and the skill set. And I always tell people, like, I didn't feel like I was good at this job until my fourth summer. I felt like I was like kind of okay, and I was kind of seeing a little bit of success here and there. But it wasn't until my fourth summer where I was like, oh, okay, I'm actually a top 1%er now. Like, it took 4 years before I was even felt internally that I was good. And the number one
Yeah.
mistake is guys just are trying to rush the process. They think they're going to
Okay.
go out day one and crush it, you know. And there's are people who go out there day one and see some early success, but you know, there's never been in any company I've never seen a rookie be the top rep of the company for a summer. Like, I've never seen it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A rookie's never been the top rep in the whole company.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's a process. And so the biggest mistake people make is they're just not patient enough with trusting the results, you know. And my favorite analogy on this is just exercise, right?
Mm.
So I mean, it makes logical sense. If I'm really out of shape, right, overweight, haven't worked out, and I'm like, okay, I want to go get a six pack, that's going to take years, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take years of diet and exercise and strength training. And the, you know, biggest mistake is guys go to the gym and they do a couple of CrossFit workouts and they eat chicken and rice for 2 weeks straight and they sleep 8 hours and they're hydrating. And then they look in the mirror and they're like, I don't look too much different,
Yeah.
you know? So they give up, right?
Yeah.
But if you exercise really hard, sleep well, eat clean, you know, 4 months from now, there'll be a difference.
Yeah.
Right. It's very, very subtle, right? It's very subtle. There isn't one workout that made all the difference. It's all the workouts combined. And the biggest mistake is guys just put so much pressure on themselves to be so good so fast that they start rushing the process. They start skipping steps. They're looking for the freebies and they're not building a strong foundation to be an elite salesman. The reality of this job is it takes a long time,
Yeah.
right? You can't rush it. You can't hack it. And if, you know, going back to the piano analogy, I'm like, hey, I want to play Beethoven, and I can't pay someone to like speed up the process of me being able to play Beethoven in 2 weeks. I can hire a coach, right? And I can get better and better and better. But even if I had $1 million, I couldn't pay anyone to like download me to play Beethoven
Yeah.
in overnight, right? You can't
Yeah.
hack that process. I actually have to go and play the scales. And so, you know, everyone's always wants to sell more. Everyone's always under pressure that I should be doing more. Everyone's always like, oh my gosh, I could be doing better. That's just the reality. That's always going to be there. And so those who are really, really patient and are playing the long game in this to do really, really, really well. I've seen guys who aren't that talented, but they just work really, really hard and they trust the process.
Yeah.
They run circles around the guys who are a little bit cocky. They've got all, you know, more talent, more ability, but they try and rush it, right? Those guys always burn out. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the number one thing I tell guys is like, hey, you just have to respect the process, that this is going to take a long time, and commit to the right inputs over a very long period of time to
Yeah.
actually see some true long-term success.
Yeah. Love that. And it's true. We see it in solar all the time where experienced reps that have way more skill will get beat out by newer guys that have way less skill, but they're just coming in with all the excitement, like you said, transfer of energy. They're putting in like double the hours. And so, you know, I think hard work can solve a lot of that for guys coming in too. But yeah, I think people, they talk about this burnout and everything. People get burned out. They're like, oh, I'm not hitting the results I want. And it's true. They've been doing it like 3 months. And it's like, dude, you don't even like, you got to give it time to get to the point where you're going to be seeing the fruits of your labor. So, yeah, I think that is a big principle that people forget about.
Yeah, I would
And
say, you
just,
know, the number one skill for guys to be successful in this thing long-term is just patience,
okay.
right?
Love
It's
that.
hard work, patience, right? It's just going to take a long time. And
Yeah.
too many people are just impatient and they want to be a level 10 sales rep. You know, if I start this job and I'm a level 2 sales rep, I
Mm-hmm.
can't go level 2 to level 10. I have to be a level 2 sales rep and I have to put in the work and the training and get the failure and get the cancels and get the cops called on me and get frustrated and get door slammed in my face. And then
Yeah.
after all of my hard work and effort, I go from a level 2 sales rep to a level 3 sales rep. And then
Yeah.
I get grind and push and grind and read the books and train and push myself and blood, sweat, and tears. And after all that work, I go from a level 3 sales rep to a level 4 sales rep, right? And a lot of guys are like coming in at level 1, level 2 sales reps, and they want to skip all the steps and go to a level 10. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's so good. So what about in all your years where you were training other guys, traveling to these different offices? I'm sure you noticed maybe like mistakes in training that managers were making, or like maybe not helping their teams effectively. So I don't know, do you have any like stories or examples where you went to an office and they're like, hey, Doug, I don't know, I can't figure out how to help this guy, and you like helped them uncover it, or maybe like mistakes you saw that's, managers were making in training their reps? What were some things you noticed in your years as like a sales trainer?
Yeah, the number one mistake sales reps make is, so there's what I call the success formula. And what the success formula is there's 3 inputs. And the 3 inputs are state, like your state of being, which is going to be your energetic relationship to life. Are you open, enthusiastic, optimistic, engaged, pleasant to be around, high vibe, good energy, right? Plus story, which is going to be the story you're telling yourself in your head. You're either saying, I love myself, I love my job, I'm the best rep, I love this neighborhood, right? I'm so grateful for this job. Or you're saying, I hate this hood, everyone's already been talked to, I'm not good at the job, right? So state, your energetic state, plus the story you tell yourself, plus your strategy, which is going to be your actual words you say in your close, in your transition, when you overcome objections in your door approach, equals success, right? So state, my energetic relationship to life, plus telling myself the right story, plus implementing the right strategy is going to equal success.
Okay.
And the way you level these things out is the way they're weighted out is that 80% of success is going to be just being in the right state. 80% of success is just being in an energetic, open, engaged, enthusiastic state. Plus 15% of it is telling yourself a positive story. Affirmations. I love myself. I love my job. I love what I do. I'm grateful for the opportunity. People love solar. People love me in the neighborhood. People love talking to me. So that's 95% of your success is being in the right state and telling yourself the right story. Only 5% of success is your skill set, right? You still need the 5% to get to 100, right? So it doesn't work without it, but it's only 5%. And so the number one mistake people make is they go out into the job, and the reality of the situation is this job's going to punch you in the face. It's gonna push you so hard. It's gonna be so difficult. You're gonna question everything. You're gonna want to quit, right? You're gonna have cancels. You're gonna be so let down. You're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna be fearful. You're gonna be insecure. You're gonna be anxious. So I'm in a negative state, and then because I'm in a negative state, I'm telling myself a negative story. Maybe this isn't for me. This area sucks. This job's too hard. I can't do this. And so I'm in a negative state. I'm telling myself a negative story. And the number one mistake in this industry is people then try to use strategy to change their state, meaning what strategy can I implement to change my state? Maybe I need to change company. Maybe I need to change neighborhood. Maybe I need to change my approach, right? And the reality is you cannot out strategize a negative state. Can't out strategize a negative state, right? You have to change your state and your story first, right? And then the strategy will come. So when things aren't going well, you're getting frustrated. And you see this all the time too. Like when you get a new rep coming into the office, they're buzzing. They're excited. It's a new opportunity. They're reading the books. They're coming to correlation. They're fired up. They want to knock. They're training. They're writing their pitch down. 6 months later, when the reality of the job sits in, how's their energy when they show up to correlation?
Yeah.
They're down. They're running late. They sit in the back. They're kind of sleeping in. They're not going to the gym, right? They're in a negative state, themselves a negative story. So their performance is going to dip, right? So the number one thing you've got to focus on to be consistent, and by the way, this is really hard. It's simple, but it's hard, is maintaining a peak state every single day. If I maintain a peak state every single day, especially when things aren't going my way, especially after a cancel, especially after it's pouring rain, especially when it's 110 degrees outside, especially when Karen just called the cops on me, I got to stay in a peak state. That will do more to your longevity and your success than any magic door approach, than any magic close, than any magic neighborhood, right? It's just maintaining a peak state and a positive story. And so the hardest part of this job is maintaining that, right? It's really easy to do at the beginning of summer or at the beginning of a new job. My question is, how excited can you be about the job when you're 4 months in and it's a random Thursday on July 18th and you're in a neighborhood by yourself and it's 110 degrees and Karen just called the cops on you. Can you
Yeah.
still be in peak state then? Right. And
Yeah.
that's the actual biggest opportunity of the job. And so biggest mistake people make is, do you have to have the right, do you have to know the door approach? Yes. Do you have to know how to close? Yes. Right. But it's only 5%, right? Your job every single day is, can I maintain a high enthusiasm, engaged, optimistic, peak performance state and tell myself a positive story and then just maintain that for a whole year? If you can do that, you'll be successful.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. And what's funny is, you think, at least in my career, I think pretty much any manager, any trainer, they're going to train like 95% of the time just on the strategy, right? Like, okay, here's what you're saying wrong. Here's the objection. So I think it's talked about very little, the whole state and story thing. So,
Yeah, I go into
yeah, it's really,
all the time. I go to offices, especially when they've kind of got their rhythm, they know the door approach, they know their presentation, and I just say, hey, listen, if you came to this meeting every single day and the manager trained getting you in a peak state where you left this office just hyped out of your mind, you've never been more fired up, right? That will do more for your office than doing more sales training. Like, we could cut sales training today, no more sales training the rest of summer, and correlation is just peak state training, and your guys'
wow.
office numbers would double.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, yeah, and most people don't even know that. Like, I think I'm doing it wrong too, because I think I myself, yeah, I know I train way more on the strategy stuff. So, I mean, that's a good thing for me to hear. So, how, as like a manager or like a trainer that's listening to this, how would you go and train these offices on like the state and the story? Like, what are some effective ways you can get your guys to? I don't know if this is stuff you can like trying to just talk about getting fired up, or like, yeah, how do you train this type of stuff for your teams?
There's a lot of different ways to do this. And so, first off, you can do it in different ways. You can, it's all about the energy, period. Like, life itself is a transfer of energy. And you
Okay.
as an individual can choose to be opened or closed. Like, you are either open or you're closed, and you can turn it on at any time.
Hmm.
Anytime you can turn it on, right? You have the key. You can turn on your energy at any time. And so it's a lot of work. And most people live their whole life thinking, once I get what I want in life, once I get the house or get $1 million or get the hot girlfriend or whatever, then I'll be open and then I'll be good, right?
Hmm.
And the reality is, life just doesn't work that way. So you have to be conscious of, like, I can choose to be open. I choose to be open. So one thing I say to myself all the time is, I choose to be open, right? And so I do a lot of things that help with that. So I think the number one most underrated habit in this industry is sleep, right? If I'm
Okay.
sleep deprived, it's gonna be really hard to stay open, energetically open all day, right? Just because my
Yeah.
body can't keep up. So I would say I sleep 8 hours a night. I work out every single morning just to turn my brain on, and I love doing breath work, right? So there's an app that I love called Othership, OTHERSHIP. It's a breathwork app, right?
Okay.
Gets me just feeling juiced. I'm just feeling a little bit more open. I've slept 8 hours. I've got more energy. Like, my job is to turn on the energy, turn on the energy, turn on the energy, turn on the energy. I'm upbeat, positive, easy to work with, right? So an acronym that I use to remind myself throughout the day is what I call PACE. I need to
Mm-hmm.
keep up the pace. So when I'm knocking, I'm thinking PACE. P stands for power. I'm knocking with power. I'm hunting for my deals. A, I'm the authority figure. When I'm at the door, I speak with authority, with tonality, eye contact, right? C is confidence. This is going to be body language. My shoulders are back, right? You can feel my confidence at the door. When someone gives me an objection, it doesn't change my demeanor. I stay confident, right? And E is energy. I knock with an energy of what I call upbeat, positive, easy to work with. I'm upbeat, I'm positive, I'm here to solve your problem. I'm really easy to work with, right? And I'm kind of move with this motor throughout the whole day. And if I just go engage in the neighborhoods with this type of energy for a whole day, I will find a deal. I will find success no matter what. Most people dread the job. They're exhausted, they're tired. I don't really want to work today, but I need to. And it's kind of like this drudgery of, like, here we go, another day. I don't want, no one wants to freaking talk to you. No one wants to work with you. You're bad, you're poor energy. Like, get your energy out of here. No one wants that. And most
Yeah.
people are in this poor energy and they think, well, I'll get in good energy once I start getting deals, right? Again, you can't out strategize a negative state. You have to choose to turn it on every day. It's hard, right? It's simple though, and you get to choose if you're energized or not. You can choose if you're open. You can turn your energy on at any time. Regardless
Yeah.
of what's happening, you can stay open. So you have to make the decision of I choose to stay open. Regardless of what's happening, regardless of cancels, I choose to stay open. I love myself. I love my job. I got to pump myself up. I'm going to listen to good music. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to jump up and down. Whatever it takes, you just got to fucking go. And most people
Yeah.
just aren't to do that. And so you just have to make the decision like, I choose to be open, right? The job's going to be hard. And the best thing you can do for yourself to get to the next level is choose to be open, period.
Wow. So good. Yeah, love that. And I think part of it is it's almost easier to just train on like the tactics, the strategy. Um, because I can go talk about there's 50 different ways to like overcome objections, this and that. But yeah, I think a lot of it is people just don't know as much about this whole state training, and it's not as much as like step one, two, three, at least it seems like. But and also sometimes it's tougher to control guys. Like there's some guys that just they're gonna go to bed late, they're gonna just bulk up on the caffeine, all that stuff. So it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot by just doing all these things. And we as like managers, um, I don't know. I've noticed it's like maybe tougher to like talk about that. So how do you get people to actually implement the state stuff, the physical thing? Because you can talk about, hey guys, go get sleep, go don't drink like 5 energy drinks a day. Do you think it's just like getting to know them more on a personal level and like doing it, or like when you're going
I
and
don't even
training
think
this?
it's just like, listen, you either want to do it, you either want it or you don't want it.
Okay.
If you're satisfied with doing 1 to 2 a month, cool. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Right? I can't want it for you. But if you
Yeah.
actually want serious change, this is what you got to do. And you can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. I'm not your parent. I'm not going to hold your hand for you. Right.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you. But at the end of the day, like, are you satisfied with where you are in your life?
Great.
Yes or no? If you're not, it's 100% your fault.
Yeah.
Right? Are you taking radical responsibility for where you are in your life? If you want to, pound caffeine and stay up late and play video games and watch porn and swipe on Tinder, right? Go for it, right? And you will get the results based upon your inputs. I can tell exactly what your outputs are going to be. So if that's
Yeah.
where you want to be, like, I'm not telling you you need to have bigger goals, but if
Yeah.
you deep down inside you want something deeper, you want to go bigger, maybe you need to start making a change because what you're currently doing isn't getting to where you want to go. So if you want to get to it, where what you've done is if you continue to do what you've done, you're going to keep getting what you have. Like,
Yeah.
period. If you want to get to the next level, if you want to see serious change, right, you have to make changes. Everything in life has a price.
Yeah.
Everything has a price. Are you willing to pay the price or not? And what's cool about the state change is like it feels really good, right? You
Yeah.
actually enjoy life more. You feel energized. You're more enthusiastic. You're more engaged. You're more optimistic. You make more friends. You go on better dates. You're better with your family, right? But you kind of have to choose to turn it on, and no one can turn it on for you. So, if you want to keep the reality is that some guys are satisfied with doing 3 solar installs a month, 2 installs
Yeah.
a month. They're okay with that. I'm like, cool. That's where you want to be. Great. I'm not telling you need to have bigger goals, but if you
Yeah.
do feel like this fire inside of you that you're destined for more, the quickest way to get there is change your state. So I can help
Yeah.
you change your state, but I can't want it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What about, so you talk about sleep, 8 hours of sleep. I got done reading, I don't know if you've read that Miracle Morning book, Hal Elrod, but it's funny because in that book, he talks about, there's a section where he's like, oh, it doesn't matter as much the amount of sleep you're getting. It more matters like the state you're in before you go to sleep. Like if you're telling yourself, oh, I'm getting very little sleep, it's going to be a tough day tomorrow. And that's like the type of day you're going to have because you already like set the story for the next day based on the amount of sleep you thought you were going to get. So for you, how do you think that's true, first of all? And like, how much is that a factor of what you're telling you? Like, can you just tell yourself, oh, I'm going to have a good day. It doesn't matter how much sleep I got. I know there's like, you got to be getting sleep for sure. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I would say it's completely personalized.
Okay.
Every body is different. I have friends who can sleep 6 hours and they're fine. I need 8.5.
Wow.
That's just
Okay.
that's just my biology, right? If I get 8.5, I feel really, really good. Because if you're sleep deprived, what's the only thing you think about the next day?
Yeah. I'm tired. Can be a
Tired you
long
are.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your energy? Down. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. Right. Ugh. No one wants to buy from you. Right. No one wants to talk to you if you're going to be a downer. Right. I'm
Yeah.
tired. My energy's low. You're not, brain doesn't work as fast. And so for me, my number is 8.5. I wish it was like some of my friends where it was 6. That'd be nice, but it's just not. Right.
Yeah.
So everyone's just got to tune into themselves. Right. You know your number. Right. And a lot of people are doing themselves a massive disservice because they sleep with their phones in the room. They look at everyone's addicted to TikTok. And so they're just putting junk in their face before they go to bed. And you're drinking caffeine before you go to sleep and you're eating like shit. So of course you're going to sleep bad. Like no
Yeah.
wonder you feel garbage. I always say this, I say, hey, go for 30 days, take your phone out of your room, only organic foods, grass-fed meats, right? Sleep 8 hours, work out every morning first thing and stay overly hydrated. You will be astonished at how good you feel. Like most people have no clue how good they can feel,
Yeah.
right? Because if I feel really, really, really good, right, my energy is going to be more open. It's going to be a lot easier to get into peak state, right? And if I'm in a peak state more often, I feel good, I feel strong, I feel confident. My dopamine, my norepinephrine, my serotonin is all being released in my brain. I'm pleasant to be around. The probability of me performing well just goes up drastically, right? Most people would rather watch TikTok and eat Uber Eats and drink Coke at night than sell. And that's okay,
Yeah.
right? I'm not telling you need to have bigger goals, right? But if you feel like crap, right, there's a couple of adjustments you can make to make a huge swing and a huge difference in this industry.
Mm, love that. Yeah. When I know you do a lot of these events, and I haven't been to, I think the only event I went to was your sales coaching event there in Provo recently. But yeah, I know up on the screen you were playing some of like your retreats and everything, and it didn't look like it was training at all. It looked like it was pure like breath work, like I don't know, ice baths, like more like state stuff. So would you say that's the main focus of like your coaching, your training is mostly just the stuff on the state?
It's
Um,
both, right? So my coaching is designed to get you into a peak state first, and then I'll give you tactical sales training. It's kind of like I know
okay.
both. It's company sales training for Vivant, so I know the doors very, very well.
Yeah.
So I can do personal development coaching for sure. Is like how do we get you into a peak state, and then now that you're in a peak state, now let's worry about that 5% of strategy, right? I do think it's important, and we don't brush over it. But 80% of success is state.
Yeah.
So helping people design a life where they can get into peak state the most often will do more for anyone else than any special door approach. But we do offer the sales training too piece of it. And then that event that you're talking about is it's our festival. It's called Alchemy Fest. And we
Okay.
do a event at the end of summer where we go out in nature, we do breath work, we do workshops, we do training, we do leadership development, we do recruiting training, we do investment strategy, right? And then we have DJs and music and art, and we have a lot of fun at night. So it's a really great event.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like some musical festival or something when I first saw it.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's a bunch of hippies running around. Looks awesome. I want that type of training.
yeah, it's
Yeah, but cool, man. Well, I know we got to wrap up here pretty quick. But last question or two, Doug, before we let you go. What would you say is the difference between the top performers you see and the guys that are average? What are some like key differences that you've noticed? Just to kind of wrap up our podcast here.
this one's easy. This one's easy. State's important too, but the difference between the top 1% and the middle, top 1% never stop learning.
Okay.
Right? Top 1% are always reading a book. They're always taking a course, right? They have a coach, they have a mentor, they have support. They take feedback really, really, really well. They never stop growing. They never stop learning. That's obvious from my perspective. I've worked with guys who make $1 million a year. I've also worked with guys in the past who make $50,000 a year. The $50,000 a year guy is harder to coach than the $1 million a year guy, because
Wow.
the $50,000 guy is like, oh, I've got to figure it out. I don't need to do that. That's not important. I've got to figure it out. They're not consistent. I work with a guy who made $3 million last year in the door to door space. And when we get on our coaching call, he's like, "What am I doing wrong? Like, I'm open to anything. Point out my blind spots. Help me." Like, he receives feedback really, really well, and then he takes his coaching very serious. And he's very humble, and he's always willing to learn. He reads every book I tell him to. He does the course I tell him to do. And it's that's the difference. Is the top 1% are very open and receptive to learning and growing and getting feedback. And the guys at the lower end feel like they've already got it figured out and they don't need it and they're better than that. And I'm like, well, shows in
Mm,
the income clearly.
yeah. No, love that. Yeah, and I definitely saw a lot of the guys you had on the stage at your events. They're guys that I think are still like currently in your program, still learning, even though I think pretty much everyone on the stage is making 7 figures plus a year. So I thought that was really cool. It's just like, hey, even the guys that have made it in our eyes, they're still like learning from you. They're still in programs. They're still getting coaching.
Biggest
Yeah,
difference is the top earners are forever students.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. So, Doug, before we wrap up, if guys want to, potentially get in your coaching, speaking of that, or maybe come to a future event of yours, what's the best way to connect with you and,
Yeah.
learn more about your programs?
Yeah, so fill out I'm almost fully booked on coaching clients for the summer because summer's wrapping up. I've got maybe, I think, as of this morning, I think 3 spots left. So if you're interested in coaching and mentorship for the program, I can only take 3 more, but applications are open at alchemysalescoaching.com. So if you fill out an application there, my team will assess it, and if you qualify for the coaching and the program, then you'll be prompted to book a call with me, and we'll kind of just make an assessment. And if it's not your turn this summer, hit me up on Instagram at Doug_Cartwright at Alchemy Sales Coaching Instagram as well. We're going to give lots of tips and tricks and state changes. And I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to through alchemysalescoaching.com where I give a weekly hit of peak state performance trainings.
Okay. Awesome. So, guys, everyone listening, go check out Doug's stuff. He's got some great content out there. I think you got a podcast now too, right? Are you doing some
Yep.
podcasting? I know you did one with Ashton lately.
Yep. Now the Alchemy podcast is up and going. A lot of sales trainings on that as well. So we'd love to have you guys. So shoot me a follow. I also respond to every DM on Instagram. So if anyone has a question or whatnot, just shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll always respond to you.
Okay. Well, Doug, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, wish we had longer. I know so much to talk about with this state stuff. So we'll have to do it again in the future. But we appreciate you coming on, and maybe last question for guys that they just want something today. They're on the doors. They just got a door slammed in their face. They're thinking of like going back to the car. What's maybe like one thing they could do to change their state, or one thing you would recommend for guys that are just like, man, I'm getting my teeth kicked in today? What would you say to that, Rep?
It's so simple and it's so dumb, but I always say do 15 push-ups. If you're stuck
Okay.
in your head or you're frustrated, this area sucks, just literally on the sidewalk next to you, just go pump out 15 push-ups as fast as you can, and it's going to create a physiological change in your body that you can then take that momentum on to the next door. It sounds simple, it sounds weird, but trust me on this. You want to change your physical body, right? And that will allow you to get into a state change quicker.
Wow. So simple. Yep, and I've seen it. Tony Robbins events. He's having guys do the high fives, like jumping up and down. So, I mean, I guess there's a reason for all that, right?
Yeah, it
Changing the
works.
state.
It
So,
works.
yep, works. Simple stuff. So, Doug, thank you for sharing that with us. Go shoot Doug a follow. Appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And yeah, we'll have to do this again in the future. But I appreciate you, my man.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate you, man.